Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the EIC board meeting for today. Celeste Hammond, so she couldn't be here today, so she asked me to fill in, and I'm glad to do it. Before we get started, I'd like to have an invocation, and I asked Ryan to perform one for us. So, Ryan?
Would y'all bow your heads with me, please? Heavenly Father, thank you for a great day in the city of Kerrville. Thank you for just all the blessings you've bestowed upon us. I ask you, Lord, to just be with the families that have lost and also be with those that are cleaning up and removing debris and rebuilding, and just keep them safe. Lord, I ask for wisdom and discernment as we make decisions that affect us moving forward. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. All right, we'll get started with item number 2, visitors and citizens forum. Do we have any visitors or citizens wanting to speak?
We have no signed up speakers.
Okay, excellent. No visitors and no citizens signed up, so we'll skip to item number 3, approval of minutes, our last board meeting. Hopefully everybody on the board had a chance to review the minutes. Any corrections, any disagreements with anything there on the board minutes?
Move for approval. Second.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Beck, thank you. We'll approve our board minutes from last meeting. Oh, all in favor, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. That part, I was all excited to move on to item number 4. Monthly reports. Let's see. Status of the flood event and recovery efforts.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I've got my debris flyer. I do like keeping this thing up. It's important for people to understand. I will say that at this point, almost everybody in TxDOT's right-of-way has had their debris picked up. They're slowing down, I don't want to say slowing down their operation. They're making passes, and collecting fewer and fewer pieces of debris on TxDOT right-of-way. They started significantly earlier than the other two contractors. And so the other contractors are working for the Texas Department of Emergency Management, or TDEM. And those folks are working on city streets, county roads, private drives that have easements, and as well as working in the river and on the riverbanks. The date, I usually get an update at 3 o'clock, and I didn't get one today. So we're over 250,000 cubic yards of debris at this point. So we're, a month and 2 weeks into this, and we're at 250,000. Most of that is vegetative debris. I would say 80% to 85% of that is vegetative debris, and then the remainder is construction material, vehicles, etc. My presentation is not going to be too dissimilar than it was last time, so I was going to kind of turn it over to see if you have any questions. Our portion is small-ish within the city limit, so it's from the city standpoint. We have our parks, we have our river trails. Those are on our property. Those are things that we get to determine. We had a group of at least a dozen arborists out tagging all the trees to stay, which is kind of the opposite of what you would normally do. Normally a forester tags a tree, and that's the one to cut down. We had so much damage that we had to kind of do it in reverse. And so what you'll see out there, especially if you drive over Sidney Baker right now, is it looks a whole lot different. You go to Francisco Lemos, it looks a whole lot different. You drive upriver, obviously it looks a whole lot different. I think we were able to tag about 2,200 trees, I think, in total. And so working our way through that. How is the other debris going to get removed that's not on the city's property? So those folks will have to, if they would like, and they want the state to come in and remove that debris, they have these right of entry forms, private property debris removal. I've been in acronym soup all day for the last 6 weeks, so PPDRs and ROEs, and I don't want to say them anymore. But provided you have a piece of property and you have a considerable amount of debris on there and you want to get that removed, you get in touch with the debris folks, and they will turn around and have you sign off on this paperwork. They come onto the property while you're on the property to kind of ensure that they're doing things in accordance with how you would want to do it, and they'll remove that debris out and leave that which you don't want to have taken. And so that's kind of the process that they're going through. They have three locations. One, the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department down the hill from the Ingram VFD, and the Centerpoint Volunteer Fire Department, and a third at the Hunt. A third one I'm gonna have to get to you later. It's in Hunt. It's by the Hunt store, but it's not the Hunt store. So with that, I mean, I think I end up talking about all this stuff, and sometimes I think we miss the questions that you might get. And so if you have questions, I'll answer what I can.
Three-part question. What about the river cleanup? Where are we at on the water treatment? And I mean river, I mean the stuff that's still in the river itself. Are they cleaning that up? And then where is FEMA at either approving or not approving rebuilding of some of these facilities or homes or whatever it might be?
Okay. So river cleanup, that's in process. So there's two contractors, and basically Thompson Drive, the bridge, is the dividing line between those two groups, and one is working west and one is working east. And so they are
Is
active.
somebody actually working in the river though?
Mhm.
They are.
Well,
okay.
to the extent that in the river it's interesting. Each piece of property has its own challenges, right? So they have two sides that you can come in from if you have permission from both sides. One might be a cliff, one might be kind of a slow, gradual piece, and you would imagine you'd want to get on that side. Lots of impediments, things in the way, but this is what they do for a living. They go around the country and they do this kind of work. And so I was talking through that today at a debris call, like, how are you doing this? Do you have a dive team that goes out and hooks a vehicle and then cables it? How do you do it when it's 15 feet deep and too far out for a cable to go? And so they're like, we figure it out. So a lot of it is each individual scenario has its own, peculiarities or challenges, and so that's that for the river cleanup. So they're in process. It's going to take quite a while. And then for water production, we are back up and running. We're making sure that no other internal forces have been affected. So we're still on our restriction, but we're hoping to be off of that by the end of this week is the hope. And then lastly, for rebuilding, the current standards for FEMA are the standards that exist right now. And so if folks are built below the 100-year floodplain and they had more than 50% of the damage to their home, and it's a weird 50%, because sometimes it's 50% of the value of the new build, and sometimes it's 50% of the damage to the property. And so it makes it a little bit complicated for the building officials or the county engineer in their case. So folks would have to go through a floodplain permit. If they're below the 100-year floodplain, they would have to build above it and build to current standard. Again, different in the county than it is in the city. We have a few properties that have been affected by it. The Lux Apartments on G Street
That's
were
what I was
affected.
thinking of,
Yeah, and it's hard because it was one building. Now it's two buildings with a roof that seams over it, but as far as the building code goes, that's one building, and that's in the floodway, not the floodplain, the floodway. Just that one building that's on the base. So we're actively having those conversations with the folks that are in the city. As far as out in the county, that's a county engineer question. Hopefully that.
Yeah, no, I did. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
So I drove out to see all the wood piles and everything where the trucks are dumping out by the soccer fields or whatever. It's amazing what they got. So they're chipping some of that, or
They
looks
are.
like there's a pile of chip back in the back, and Richard, but they're gonna save some and burn it later, or
Well, the challenge in burning is that you have to wait 60 days to let the wood dry. You can chip at any time, right? And so there's 2 chip trucks out there right now, conveyors really more. And then that chip debris will be hauled off, and they have to have a final disposition site for every category of debris. So whether it's, hazardous household waste, electronics, construction debris, vegetation, and the vehicles. So that chip debris will go to, they've already got somebody who's going to take that, and they're going to be taking like hundreds of thousands of yards of chip. I don't want. Those things can get hot really fast. So I'm glad they're going.
Well, anyway, so they're doing, but they're hauling some of the logs off, or they're all just chipping for now?
So the ones that are going to the debris piles, they're getting chipped or burned. There are a lot of it's dirty debris. I mean, it's mixed in with all this other stuff. It's not a operation of like carefully selecting this and that. They're blowing and going because they still have another 1 million+ cubic yards of debris to get through. We have taken, we're trying to take about 20 or 30 trees per park and set those aside. Now there's a lot of conversation about what you can do with all this wood. My response to that is yes, that's true. From a city standpoint, there's a $50 million bill that we don't have the money to pay for it, so I'm not going to ask how the state and FEMA is going to take care of that. For 95+% of the rest of the debris, that's all private property. So if folks want to, divest themselves of a cypress tree that's fallen on their property and sell it to a mill, that's your private property. Do with it what you will. But we're either chipping it or we're burning it.
I actually have to leave. We are on our way down to San Antonio for the Tobin Center. They're going to have a big benefit tonight for the Arcadia board is sitting in on that. So I unfortunately have to leave early today.
That is good economic development.
I'll let y'all do the updates. I actually talked to Michael earlier, and he gave me kind of the updates on what's going on. So I'm going to pull out right now real quick. Thank you, guys. Sorry to have to leave.
All right, well, unless anybody else has questions, we'll move on to item 4B.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. Todd Bach with Kerr EDC, here for our monthly update. We put the slide together back just to kind of give you a little better idea of the happenings from the week of July 7th to currently today, as we still continue to work on long-term recovery and what that looks like for Kerr County. Putting together in a very short period of time the Kerr Together Task Force, which ultimately will be put together to take over our long-term recovery as we continue to build and frame that out. And I'd like to give a lot of kudos to Teresa Metcalf and Kelly Hagemeyer for a lot of their work and their focus with TDM in order to find out best practices and how we continue to move forward. As we look, I believe, since we spoke last, the week of July 21st, our continued efforts with Kerr Together and meeting regularly and monthly. We've had presentations to the EIC, City Council, the SBA Roundtable, Commissioners Court, being on the lead in meetings and planning with our planning partners for the long-term recovery. Continued those meetings, was able to meet with the HUD Secretary and the EOC when he came to visit Kerr County, and our regular scheduled meetings with the Chamber Foundation and with the Business and Tourism Group, which is Mindy, myself, Kelly, and Julie Davis of the CVB. We also, in the midst of all this, are continuing to reach out to our local business partners that we have meetings with and get status and updates on how they're doing. Kelly and I were able to go out and meet with KMM and Mr. James Connor, and they are to report back. They are doing very well. Their business and Boeing contracts are continuing to grow. We're going to be in conversation with them over the next several months and next year as to some potential expansion projects that they're looking into. Their hiring is going very well. They are continuing to hire. I believe they were close to a little over 100, I think, employees when we were there meeting. So all good news coming from KMM, and very appreciative of what KMM has done too with their employees during the flood relief and allowing them to volunteer and help. Very involved in the community. Moving on through July 28th, continuing again our regular scheduled meetings that we have throughout the week. And one of our big takeaways is, I know Mindy Wendeley is here with the Chamber Foundation, and had an update from Mindy that 204 businesses have received assistance in a sum of $1.2 million granted through that foundation. Obviously, we're in that office every day and seeing amazing work between Mindy and the Chamber staff. And it is a very heartfelt, very warm feeling when you see those recipients come in, and extremely grateful for receiving their funds to help them. A lot of work we still have to do with Curry DC and the Chamber is following up with these businesses to find out what their status is, how they're doing, after the flood versus how they're doing now, what direction that they're going in. Our Cur Together Task Force is another task force that is set up, led by Judy Eichner, where we have representation from Centerpoint all the way from the east all the way down to the west that come in and give us an update on the progress of what each community is doing and how they're facing the recovery and the challenges that they are. And I know we hear a lot in those meetings about the businesses struggling, and we know that's going to be an issue, and we know what direction we're going to need to go in. And Curry DC also knows that we're going to have to go in a direction to remember those businesses that were struggling or had expansion plans pre-flooding event too, that are also going to need our assistance moving forward through this process. That is the end of my update for Curry EDC. I'd open the floor to any questions.
No?
No?
No questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Todd.
Appreciate it.
All right, we'll move on to item number 4C, EIC project status update. Michael, you're up again.
All right, we'll go through this one pretty quickly, I think. All right, so our 6-ish main projects right here: Cali Theater, the pool, Scott Turner Golf Course, playgrounds at KSP and Guadalupe Park, Granger McDonald, and the AC Shriner House. Starting with Martin, can you go forward one? Thank you. All right, so shoot, this doesn't have my updates on it. So the Cali Theater project, we are still on schedule. The budget was kind of reduced. It was $4 million and taken down to 3.25. So there was a amendment to that contract for a couple of increases in there, change order. I got something in today. There was a quote submitted by the contractor Guido Construction to seal coat and restripe the parking lot, and it ended up being just over I think it was $22,500. That value would put us over the 3.25 million, not by much, by about $15,000, $16,000. And I just got it in the email box, and I said, well, we'll talk about it. I was like, I don't know, this project was for roof replacement and HVAC repair, and so it would be slightly over that 3.25 million. Again, I just got it in my inbox. These guys are scheduled to be done by the end of this month, on the 31st. If we wanted to do this as a separate project at a later date, that can be done as well. But I just wanted to bring that up. So if y'all have any thoughts on that, or want us to just pause, hold on, a lot has been done already for this project.
Is the parking lot in bad shape?
I mean, as parking lots go, it's okay. You know, it's not fantastic, but it's not terrible. You know, and you know, it's a good feather in the cap of the whole thing to have a new parking lot. You know, new, nicely striped area. But again, we're trying to manage the budgets, and we can always go back in as a second project. That comes in at a little higher rate, obviously, because you got to mobilize again. But we also have staff internally who can do some of these things. You know, street staff on our end can do some of that work. It's a little bit less efficient because we'll get pulled off and called to another project sometimes. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It doesn't put us over by much in my thinking of it. We were at 3.19. I'm gonna blank on where we are because I didn't have time to like run the math.
Budgeted for.
Huh?
reduce the budget.
3193. Okay.
I think the landscaping should be worked on before we worry about the parking lot.
Okay.
I go there all the time and drop off mail and,
Yeah.
I pass by all the time and the landscaping is a mess. Now, obviously, we're not worried too much about it right now because nobody's really using it, but I think at some point when we finish the project in August, you know, people are gonna start driving through there more and there's low-hanging branches on trees.
These are quicker projects. I mean, even the whole parking lot's almost 100,000 square feet. It's still a pretty minimal project, you know. So these things can be done as second projects when there's time off. You know, work on a landscaping plan, work on something else. There's opportunities to do it later, as opposed to doing it all now. But I felt like I had to bring it up because I got it in my inbox, and they're mobilized for another couple weeks. So.
So in the big picture, there's, how we doing for budget? Cause I know we moved some to one place or another, so I mean.
We're doing fine. Obviously, one of the park playgrounds was destroyed, that we paid for. The insurance, there was a cap on the insurance because of it's a single incident. So we had more damage than we had insurance dollars coming back. So I think we're gonna triage those insurance dollars to public infrastructure. So anything that water and wastewater need to fix lift stations, any of the rehabilitation there. And I would think that, in my mind, first on the list, if there's money left over, is Guadalupe Park and replacing that. There are some other opportunities available to us. So from an overall budget standpoint, I think we're doing pretty good. It is still gonna be, you know, tight. The pool's been drained. Start demo here this week. That number came back in where we felt comfortable. We had some cushion. We had a couple $100,000 in cushion. I'm reluctant always to say, let's pull the trigger on it because the project's just getting started. If that makes sense. We'll be under our 20 million though, I can guarantee you that.
Well, you can spend it on the park.
Well, that money will be spent on some park features, for sure.
That might be maybe more important than the parking lot, I guess.
There's more projects than need, that's for sure. This one has certainly got its fair share. I mean, it's $3 million, you know, going towards this project. So, a lot of worthy projects out there. Not to say that this isn't one. But again, I don't know that this is something to decide today, unless you have a really strong feeling about it. I'm going to move on. Martin, can we go to the next slide? And the next one, please. Okay, so pool is being drained today, or is drained. Demo will start this week. We had to cut a little bit out of that project to get us into budget, because that 6.5 is just the construction piece. That doesn't include the architecture and engineering piece, which is about $850,000, $900,000. So our hope is still to have this open by Memorial Day weekend. I think it's going to be a tight schedule to get us there, so we're just going to push hard. It helps that Bernhard Construction is local, so we can prod them a little bit more than we can somebody who's from out of town. But they're going to work as hard as they can. I know it. Martin, you can go to the next slide. And the next one. So let's keep going. Go back one. So the golf course is scheduled to open on the 27th. That's the ribbon cutting. So everybody on this board, everybody's invited. 10 a.m. On the 27th. If you haven't gotten your invitations to that, we'll make sure they get out to you. We'll have some refreshments, and it's going to be, I'm excited for this one to get back going. Because the two things I heard this summer were, I can't take my kids golfing and I can't take my kids to the pool. And that breaks your heart a little bit, right? Because you can't let the kids have less to do. So they're going to be able to get back out in the golf course here pretty soon. And if you haven't had a chance to go take a look at it, go out there and survey that scene. All right, Martin, you can go ahead. Back one, thank you. Nothing's really changed to this project. We'll have substantial completion by October 31st. The Praying for Rain statue that is now housed at the Museum of Western Art at the entrance will eventually find its home in front of the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center. There's a little concrete pad that's been poured, and that was always the ultimate resting place for that particular piece of art. And just couldn't put it out, didn't want to put it out there now. So so that is being shipped, and it's a fairly it's a kindness. The owner, Kathleen Brinkman, she's going to pay to have that shipped from that location to the project site. And so lots of things to consider. We talked about some landscaping plans today. I think the city manager and Kim Meismer had spoke with Dr. Rector and Angela Kennedy, the executive director, about holding off on any of those landscaping plans because I think they're working through a fundraising effort. We don't want to duplicate something or install something that is in conflict with what they want. And so the project's moving its way along. Go to the next slide. Granger McDonald Park. Okay. I think we talked about it last time. The grant that we applied for doesn't apply because you have to require motorized vehicles, and we don't allow that because that's our impoundment lake. That's our drinking water. So we like to keep the oil and gas to an absolute minimum in that lake, and so that's why it's non-motorized. So we're still working our way through that. I have been in contact with the engineers. I have a lot of concerns about the boardwalk that is proposed out there. I think if that boardwalk is in place during this last flood, it would be in Canyon Lake. And so I think I want to consider some alternatives that we might be able to look at that would be a little more flexible, a little more safer. I don't know is the best word. I just don't want to put good money after it and then it's gone after a good 6-8 inch rain, and then we got to do it again. And so I don't know. There's more questions than answers at this point on that one. And so once we have some more conversations with the designer of the boardwalk, along with the engineers, I'll have more of a robust update on that and our recommendations moving forward. Let me stop if you all have any questions about anything we talked about so far. The right is a fat muscle. Favorite of all the fat muscles. Martin, you can go forward. Again, Guadalupe Park has been kind of destroyed for all intents and purposes. KSP is in good shape. And so those playgrounds are looking fine, or that one playground is looking fine. I think Parks Department is talking with some of the bigger playground folks about ways that they might help us with the replacement. I don't know what that means, but like everything around here lately, we are getting a lot of offers for help. And so That could be, as small as helping with some of the design or redesign, or maybe even something larger. Don't know. We're still communicating with those folks and let y'all know as soon as we do. Martin, you can go to the next one. And there was the playground. There was the other playground. And with that, the other projects, the downtown river trail, I mean, we've abandoned it more or less at this point. We haven't done any work on this in the last month and a half for the new section that's down on the high side of the bank. Don't have any updates for you. I know we're going to miss the Transportation Alternatives deadline, which is August for that river trail project. So that comes about every 2 years. It's not a high priority at this point. This is the north side river trail that goes from the library down to G Street. And so I'd love to say we had enough bandwidth to continue working through that, but we just don't. And the rest of the projects on here are moving along, or James Avery is still waiting from TxDOT, actually. And Lennar, as you've seen, they're blowing and going on their project up above the middle school. If you've been on 534, you can see the shape of that neighborhood kind of there. With that, I will turn it back over.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Michael? No? All right, we'll move to item 4D, the monthly financials. Trina?
Hello, good afternoon. The other presentation for EIC, Martin, please. The one that says July, that one. Thank you. Alrighty, so we're looking at financials through July 31st. This here is your statement of activities for the sales tax revenue bonds, and we're looking at your yellow column there for July. Total interest revenues in the tax pool account and your one short-term investment we had was $59,529. Your next section down is your projects, and we had the golf course improvements at $109,000 that went out, the Olympic pool $2,600, the Callow Theater $413,000, and then I told y'all last month we went ahead and transferred over the $1 million or part of your contribution to the Heart of the Hills Heritage Center. They were running low on cash, so we were coming in at the end there. You did have one commercial paper investment that matured on July 25th, and that was for $2 million. We currently are not reinvesting that just because majority of your projects should be wrapping up here within the next 4 months or so. And we will still have the Granger McDonald funds still out there, but let me just see where that timeline goes, and then we'll probably reinvest here in a couple months on that one. Bond proceeds minus your project expenses leaves $12.8 million, and then your interest earnings minus your arbitrage liability right now is at $1.29 million. So that's looking pretty good. Any questions on revenue bond activity? All right, so your operational funds for July, your July sales tax was $418,237, and that is up 2% over last July. So that puts sales tax year to date at $4,226,000, which is better than budget estimate by $4,400. So we're tracking right along where we thought we would be at for budget, as well as looks like we may meet budget. Sales tax for August came in last week, and it's another $418,000, which is up 3%. So the last few months we've been up month over month, so that trend is looking real positive. Your next revenue is the interest income of $23,775 for the month. Puts you ahead of budget estimate by $140,000, and that's a very volatile thing, so it's been holding steady all year long. The feds haven't been making many moves, so we've been capitalizing. You did have your Federal Home Loan Bank note that matured on the 25th also. That was a $1 million piece, and we did reinvest that into a commercial paper with a 9-month term, and that was a 4.34% interest rate, so you'll earn about $28,000 on that. All right, your next section down is your expenditures, and this is just monthly recurring expenditures that went out. Your City of Kerrville contract for $17,000, your final quarterly payment to KEDC for $85,000, And then your monthly debt service of $213,000, and then the reinvestment of that commercial paper, $972,000 for that piece. And then your last section down are your projects. Travis Pump Station was $33,000 we paid out, and then Habitat for Humanity's final payment was $353,000, and that finished out their contract. So total expense, $1.675 million, with a net change in position of a negative $233,000. All right, next one is your cash flow forecast, and this same stuff here. Last row, first column is $5.8 million cash balance right now. Your next column over is the remaining fiscal year 25 projections, and then your fiscal year 26 proposed budget numbers over to the last section to the right. And then one more here, your financial analysis. So your sales tax chart comparisons, top left, and that is through July, we have been up 1.7% over last year numbers, and that's pretty good, holding steady. Your bottom chart shows your cash and investments. The current tax pool yield is 4.42%, and it looks like all your average for all your short-term investments there, right there with it. And then over to the right are your remaining project commitments. So $7.6 million still in outstanding payments. All right, and that's all I have for the month of July. Any questions?
Have y'all thought any about what the impact the flood might have on sales tax revenue?
I know there's gonna be a lot of expenses. We're not sure yet. It really just depends on, I mean, if they shop local, of course, we'll reap some benefits of that. But honestly, it's too early to tell. Not really sure. We're not seeing a lot of that. I know we have seen a shortfall in revenues specifically in July, but that was other types of revenues, you know. Our emergency services and things of that nature. Those have gone down. Responses, the normal responses for activities of such didn't happen because we had a lot of agencies in town assisting with the normal operations. So really don't know yet. Just we're 2 months behind, obviously. So if anything in July, we'll see it in September. Sorry, that's all I could tell you.
I think you'll see an initial uptick that will be building materials and service industries, you know, people coming in. I mean, there was thousands of people here, right? And they were coming into the stores and they were eating and they were doing that. And I think that tapers off, obviously, as folks leave. And so what happens 6 months from now? That's part of the question, right?
Yeah. So we'll see the start, yeah, September sales tax comes in. It'll be the first month we could see what's been going on.
Well, let's hope some of that recovery money too gets spent in the community, and maybe we'll help out a little bit.
For sure.
Offset maybe some of our visitors that aren't coming because of the damage. I guess we'll wait and see.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Trina. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Assuming nobody else has questions, right? All right, well, let's move on to item number 5, KEDC fiscal year 2026 budget presentation. Todd?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. This will be a presentation of our 25-26 Kerr EDC budget. Introduction to our team. This is the Kerr EDC Board, and the members that make up the Kerr EDC is a strong representation of our entire community, the ISDs, KPUB, and EIC representative, Mr. Beck, is also on this board. And thank you, Beck, also for serving on the Kerr Together as well, too. Appreciate you being there, too. It's a great continuity for everybody to be able to hear what's going on and be able to report back to one another. Our focuses, well, for 25-26 are going to be some of the same focuses we had before the flood. We still have business retention and expansion programs we want to continue with that were there before the flood. We're very excited. I don't have an exact update other than speaking with Mr. Salvador Garza that we have an anticipated groundbreaking in 2026 by Megacrete, so we'll be heavily involved with that and helping them push that forward and get to moving on that. And our workforce development partners, more important now than ever before, as we continue to work with all of our ISDs and the Hill Country High School and OLH, continue to put programs together using Workforce Solutions Alamo and getting apprenticeships put together for companies that would like to look at bringing some of the youth into their programs to give them the opportunity to have a chance at literally real-time on-the-job training and courses that they're studying and trying to get certifications in. Also would like to mention too that in the workforce development on the long-term recovery, been working with Adrian Lopez, the CEO of Workforce Solutions Alamo, in a grant to help find jobs for those that potentially become displaced during the flood and relocating them through employers throughout the community and helping the employer with some of that, with some of the initial upfront costs of bringing that employee in. As I said before, we want to continue with some of the same programming that we were doing, but we are going to have to pivot to an extent. We've got a big, long road ahead of us for the long-term recovery, and Kerr EDC, along with many, many different partners, will be heavily involved in that long-term recovery. Okay. Sorry. Working on getting the budget up there in front of you. And I apologize if there was a delay in getting some of this to you. I know we were very late to the game to get it into Julie. While Trina was in here, I wanted to also let them know you'll start seeing a different budget presentation for us moving forward, be very similar to what you're looking at when you look at the EIC. There we go. Do you have this at your station?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if you'll see, we're going to start formatting now since we moved to the city of Kerrville to handle our bookkeeping. Moving forward, this is what you will see as we continue to build years throughout, so you can have previous year comparisons. We had to go through, if you'll see on the far left there, you're going to see the 2025 budget, and then in the center column is where we currently are with estimates. We did our best to take those estimates of where we're going to be by the end of the year, taking our new account numbers versus the old account numbers that you were previously looking at and merging them. Moving forward, they will all be in line with with Julie and her team as we go through and we create these line items on the budget. On this year in revenues, we're seeking $475,000 this year. There we go, $475,000 this year. As we go through the process, you'll see down under the personnel, 277,300, and as we go through under the personnel, we'll have a total of 347,894, and that is going to be including Miss Teresa Metcalf as our Deputy Director of the Kerr EDC. Teresa's been with us since 2016, where she was fully employed as a full-time employee of Kerr EDC before leaving to take an economic development job in Colorado Springs. The goal of the board was to ultimately bring Teresa in. Under these circumstances, it's been rushed a little sooner rather than later. We were looking at about a 2-year phase in, and now Teresa is planning on moving her and her family into Kerr County and being a full-time employee of Kerr EDC to help with the existing long-term recovery plans as well as the plans we had for business retention and expansion of our existing businesses. We go through on the budget on office supplies. We've got a total in the office supplies with the highest ask on that is the technology and equipment. We currently are working on our own personal laptops and systems. I believe Teresa said the last systems or 2016, and we have only one computer working in the office. The previous 2 employees had their own computers and took them. We want to move over so that Kerr EDC will own the actual hardware within the company, so the hardware stays with Kerr EDC. Going through our maintenance and services, we've gone through, and during the interim period, we went through and we made a lot of cuts to the existing budget from the operation system that Kerr EDC was operating under the 24-25 budget, paring that down to a minimal, what we know we could survive with and live with moving forward, and look to be able to sustain Kerr EDC and our newest challenges under this same budget. It was, again, I apologize for the lateness of it. We got it before our board. I believe it was last Thursday and finished up on Friday morning before we were able to get this to Julie to get in your packets for the weekend. Under the business retention and expansion is one of our, again, primary focus responsibilities that we were looking at doing for this year prior to the flood. Want to continue to make that happen for our local businesses, those that were directly, indirectly, and not affected by the flood, to continue to have those roundtables that Teresa had when she was with Kerr EDC back from 16 to 21. When I was in as the interim, made a lot of connections with a lot of the schools and businesses, and they really missed out on having those local roundtables, quarterly roundtables between workforce development and the local businesses all coming together in a quarter to talk about their needs and the success and the challenges that they were facing. As we go down into marketing, marketing will be used moving forward mainly as the attraction, where Kerr EDC would go out and look for the attraction side of bringing new clients and bringing new business or new industry, diversifying our sales tax platform. That was not going to be our primary focus for last year, and as of now will not be our primary focus. But we have positioned ourselves with becoming and requesting to be a member of the Greater SATX Partnership, which is a conglomeration of counties surrounding Bexar County, Kerr County, and to the south. And what that does is that gives us a look at a lot of different companies that are looking to move into South and Central Texas. We receive emails with requests for information from all of those counties, which we now receive, of companies that could potentially fit the profile of Kerr County and fit with our natural assets that we currently have in place, to look at reaching back out to them and using the Greater SATX as a partner in attracting and trying to recruit new industry to Kerrville that would not come in and affect something that would complement us. And in the past, as you probably know, we spend a lot of time with, whether it be with the executive director or the assistant, out trying to attract businesses in. We are now focused on the businesses that are saying they want to move into Central Texas, into the Hill Country, and we get their direct RFIs emailed to us from the Greater SATX. And as we find one of those, we have the opportunity to respond to it, and we have all the assets of the Greater SATX to help us to put a deal together, whether it be monitoring what type of incentives work for our community or the type of incentives that don't work for our community, and give us the opportunity to negotiate with them as we see fit if there is a company we want to go trying to attract. And that will be seen, as you'll see in the budget. I'm going to go back up to under other, where you see we went from an estimated $12,314 to $23,225. One of the increases in the budget, that has taken the place of a lot of the expenses that we carried down there under the marketing side. Oh, sorry about that. Yep, there we go. Oh, there we go.
I think there's 3 pages, yeah. So yeah, this one
Oh,
will work for that.
Thank you. Yep, so here, when we go to that, the 23,225 is here. That is actually an expense that we were carrying down here under local marketing that we were doing in-house or with consultants to go and attract those industries, where now those industries that looking to move into the region are actually being forwarded to us and going through somewhat of a vetting process with the Greater SATX. As we look at the final page here, you will see a updated fund balance for the end of the year of $175,712. The majority of that is due to savings from employees. We went through a period, I believe our last employment that we paid was back on January of 2025 until I came on, and on July 1st was actually my first day. So we had several months in there where we had some salary savings, which brings our balance, salary savings, and we negated some contracts with some consultants that we had at the time that we weren't going to need to finish out the rest of the year. So we had some savings there. Now that savings balance that you see, the 175,712, that is under board discretion. We do not have a plan as of yet, as obviously things have changed. I spoke with some of the board members prior to that when we knew we were going to have a fund balance as to how we could use that and inject that revenue into the community, whether it be through a different facade grants or a micro lending program for small business. But as of this time, we do not have anything active, and the board has not made any decisions as to what to do with that fund balance. Any questions?
Does it cost anything to KEDC to be a part of that greater SATX partnership?
Yes, yes, it does. Yes, sir. Back up here, of that 23,225, I believe it's $18,400 is our annual cost, which just recently changed. They're doing it by per capita moving forward. They had a flat fee, I believe, in 2024 through 2025. I believe it was 10,000 or 12,000, and now they're doing it based on a per capita to equalize that investment amongst all the other partners within the region.
I know it's difficult to quantify success for the money that we're spending, but what would you consider to be a success in that cost?
In this, well, one measurable that we were shooting for was going to be the roundtables and the ability to come back and show the community how working with the businesses, working with all of the ISDs, getting numbers that they would like to have as well too, meaning the placement of all the students through all of our, what we call the educators, Shriner and the KISD and Centerpoint ISD and OLH and Hill Country High School. They have been struggling with this as well, and brought to our attention is how many of these local kids are we placing in employment within our community. And some of these students are not the students that are looking to go to college. They're looking to stay within the community to work. They have we don't have to recruit them in to find housing. They live at home. They live with parents and grandparents. A lot of them are caregivers and are not going to have the opportunity to go out and go to college, and want to find a place for them to work within the community. And we're hoping to be able, and I talked with the ISDs, there's some sensitive information there when it comes to minors and tracking their whereabouts, but we want to develop a system that we can say, hey, we placed X amount of students in a work scenario, and have that feedback obviously coming from the employers as well. The flip side of this is also too, with our BRE program, working in conjunction with Kelly Hagemeyer, having the ability to come back and say, we had X amount of businesses visited, we had X amount of businesses with X amount of employees looking to increase that employment, and this is how we assisted them in increasing those employee numbers, which increases their output, which hopefully at the end of the day increases our sales tax revenue for the city and the county. We'll also be working within the county as well too. City Manager Dalton Rice and I are looking at ways in which we could help benefit businesses as well, just outside in the ETJ. I know as my time as a board member and filling in the interim, it was interesting how many small businesses called that were going into the ETJ to find out, hey, what do I do from here? And Michael's been a great help in his organization, having access to Kelly to find out, did they need sign, did they need permits? And so right in our ETJ, there's a lot of activity that we were never really tracking before that we want to track and find out and follow those businesses as well as those that are within the incorporated city limits as well too.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do we need to take a vote on approving our contribution for their budget, Michael? No?
Yes, sir.
We do,
Yeah, yes, sir.
okay.
I move for approval of the Career Economic Development budget.
Okay. Got a first and a second. We'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye. All right.
We appreciate you very much. Thank y'all.
All right, so, we move on to item 5B, EIC fiscal year 2026 budget presentation. Trina?
Okay, so this is gonna be short and simple. And this format's gonna be, we're showing you, the current year budget, the estimated end of this current year, and then what we're proposing for fiscal year '26. So this first here is your revenues, and, the sales tax, we want to propose it at 0.5% above the current budget. It's right on track, and, we think it can perform to those standards, so we've increased that 0.5% from what we originally wanted to stay flat at. And your interest revenue, this is including your short-term investments and then your sales tax revenue bonds. So even though we've kind of restricted those to not spending right now until we have projects out of the way and arbitrage calculations out of the way, it will come back to your pot of operational monies. So that is combined $527,000 for the year. So total revenues $5.6 million for fiscal year '26. All right, any questions on that? This here is just some historical information on sales tax and what we've been seeing it. This particular chart is 8 years, just pulled up 8 years worth of data. But this showing budget versus actuals, so how it performed year over year. So you can see that when COVID hit and, we had pulled back on expenditures and expecting the worst, it actually outperformed any other year. Double digits, 27% in fiscal year '21, and it kind of tapered off slowly. And then in fiscal year '23 and '24, with inflation rising, sales tax went down in the hole. But as you can see, we're trying to bounce back here. You're in fiscal year '25. That estimated end is to end about 0.5% over the budget, anyways. So fiscal year '26 there, that's what we're proposing, 0.5% over. Again, our 12-month rolling average for this fiscal year is up 1.6%. So that's another analysis we did. And then obviously, because the feds are very slowly cutting the interest rates, consumers are still reconsidering their disposable income and not spending, just sporadically or spontaneously. So just a little bit of factors of things of what we considered and what the proof in the pudding is there. Okay, so for your budget expenditures in fiscal year '26, looking at a total of $15.1 million in expense, and you have your regular monthly expenditures, administrative services. So there in that first line for supplies and miscellaneous, that does include arbitrage calculation fees and your debt disclosure fees. Obviously, you've never had those before because you did not have any debt that you owned, but those are annual costs to our financial advisors for the work they do on maintaining those bonds for us. Total in that category is $51.50. And do just want to put out there, we always have $10,000 set aside for legal services, and then we did add in a line last year per Hornis's request, another $10,000 for training, so that is there for y'all to use at any time if you feel that is necessary.
And that's for y'all's training, not staff's. So if you want to go to conferences.
City of Kerrville contract does call for a 4% increase, and that is good through fiscal year '28, I believe. So that is $221,000 for fiscal year '26, and then KEDC's request of 9% increase to $375,000 for the year. Debt service is just per the debt payment schedule, and that's going to be a total of $2.5 million for the year. And then down in your project contributions, we divided those up between operational and your revenue bonds, obviously. So Travis Pump Station upgrades, hope to end that in fiscal year '26. Shriner University Talent and Workforce, and then their athletic facilities. So we did strategically line up those payments to have a larger payment in year one, and then it's going to die down to just small incremental, and we actually had a request for those this week, so we'll be sending out a payment to finish out, well, to do year one on the talent and workforce, and then starting year two on the athletic facilities. That timing was a little different. It's not lined up exactly with the fiscal years. It's June to May, I believe, is their time period. And then Habitat is done. James Avery traffic signal, if that comes twofold. And then Lennar development, we have an update on that and expect to go vertical possibly the beginning of the fiscal calendar year in January. So once they get to substantial completion, they should get that first $2 million payment out to them. Down on your revenue bonds, that's just finishing out the quality of life projects. And total expense again is $15.1 million for the year, which shows you having a deficit of $9.5 million. But obviously, when you are dealing with a lot of money, you receive it 1 year, and then you have expenses that come out year over year after that. And that is pretty much it for your budget. Short and to the point.
So basically, the revenue that you're projecting for us next year is pretty flat,
It's pretty flat.
0.5%.
It's flat, but it's had small increase.
Yeah. I was just concerned that maybe y'all estimated 2% growth or something like that, which may be a little aggressive, but.
It's really volatile, and play it safe and go conservative most times.
All right, thank you for the information.
Yes, sir.
Anybody got any questions? No? All right, we need to take a vote, I suppose, for our approving our budget.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, well, we approved the budget for next year. Don't think we have anything to go into executive session for.
We do not.
Let's see, do we have any other items to discuss for future agendas? Anybody got anything? No? Okay. Well, if we got nothing else for the day, then it's 5:02 and our meeting is adjourned.